Coming up in this video, we're going to be talking about a new WWE debut. We're going to be talking about an AEW debut. And yes, we are going to talk about Eric Young potentially as Bray Wyatt's Uncle Howdy. A lot of interesting stuff coming up in this video. I'm going to make sure I put the timestamps in the description down below. Let's kick things off with Dragon Lee. There's obviously been a lot of questions about Dragon Lee and when he is expected to debut. And it appears multiple reports, leaks, and speculation all combined have led to this very moment. If you guys didn't know, it looks like Shawn Michaels has a feud coming along TV with Grayson Waller. And of course, a lot of people are curious to see what happens here. And of course, a lot of people have been somewhat upset to see that Shawn Michaels potentially could be coming back into the ring for a match against Grayson Waller. And while that would be a very interesting and irrational decision from the WWE, it doesn't appear that Shawn Michaels will be wrestling at all. In fact, it appears that WWE is going to move forward with the idea of Dragon Lee taking the place of Shawn Michaels, which of course would happen at NXT Stand and Deliver. This would make a lot of sense for Dragon Lee to get that big babyface pop, and of course, it would allow him to go over Grayson Waller. Logically, it makes sense because Grayson Waller wasn't really given the opportunity to prepare for the match against Dragon Lee. We'll see how WWE does go about this. I know I've spoken to people who said that this is something that's being planned. I know there's a couple Twitter accounts that have also spoken about it, such as Worked Wrestling. So obviously there are a lot of people who are under the belief that this will happen. I'm super excited to see where Dragon Lee stands when he goes into WWE NXT. I hope WWE does prepare to make him a big deal because eventually on the main roster, they are going to need Dragon Lee. And when you look at what they've done with Legado del Fantasma, Dom Mysterio, and Rey Mysterio, I think you throw Dragon Lee into the mix, and there's some really good stuff that can come out of it. So I am super excited to see what happens next. With that being said, we got to talk about Eric Young being Uncle Howdy. No, this hasn't really passed my mind in recent months. We all know that Eric Young was bound for WWE. Several months ago, we talked about Eric Young signing with the WWE and leaving Impact Wrestling. Keep in mind, Impact Wrestling killed him off of television, which was a very interesting choice. But then Eric Young hasn't popped up on WWE television. Well, yesterday on SmackDown, WWE did the Firefly Funhouse, and, well, it sounded like Eric Young was doing the voiceover for this. And, of course, when we saw Uncle Howdy appear on the screen as the weatherman, a lot of people were starting to wonder, is Eric Young Uncle Howdy? And this is a great question, because it really did sound like Eric Young doing the voiceover. I don't know what WWE here is doing. In fact, with Bray Wyatt, Wyatt 6, the Wyatt family, whatever the hell they are working on here, there are a lot of question marks. And WWE is really trying to entice you with all of these little pieces of content. And I think a lot of us are just starting to somewhat become impatient with it. But if Eric Young is in fact Uncle Howdy, I don't think that's a good idea. Not for any other reason then I just don't think it's a personal preference thing. And I think Eric Young, if they are going to have a faction of some kind, I would rather see Eric Young be Eric Young. I would like to see Bo Dallas end that role of Uncle Howdy. But of course, there's been tons of rumors, especially with WWE bringing in Vincent and Dutch. Maybe this is the new faction. Maybe it's Bray Wyatt, Eric Young, Bo Dallas, the Righteous. I mean, we'll see what happens, but I think WWE's in a very, very, very tough spot if they don't deliver something massive with this faction, because there are a lot of question marks going into WrestleMania. And while I do like the idea of Eric Young being involved, I just don't think it makes sense for him to be Uncle Howdy. I think the big payoff with Bo Dallas could be a lot more entertaining. And, you know, I think Bo Dallas needs something massive upon returning to the WWE. So this would definitely be that. I also want to point out, too, in this situation that WWE with Eric Young, you know, you got to look at age. And I'm not saying he's old by any means, but when I look at age and I look at Eric Young and where he stands in his career, it's not like this guy will be, you know, next 10, 15 years be at the top of the list. And obviously that's just something to kind of keep in mind if you're going to have somebody like Uncle Howdy be pushed in a massive way. Not saying Bo Dallas will be wrestling for the next 15 years either, but I'm just saying in general, he is a little bit younger than Eric Young, so that is something definitely to consider. Nonetheless, we're going to move on to our main event story of today's video. Guys, AEW did announce the debut of Commander, who will be joining AEW on Dynamite next week in the Face of the Revolution ladder match. Let's take a look. This is a very cool thing here. So AEW announced Ortiz, Konosuke Takeshita, Commander, Action Andretti, Sammy Guevara, Powerhouse, Will Hobbs, Eddie Kingston, and AR Fox in the Face of the Revolution ladder match. Now, this match is taking place on Dynamite instead of the Revolution pay-per-view, which I think Tony Khan may have learned his lesson about long pay-per-views, because we know Danielson and MJF are going to have a 1 hour Iron Man match. Obviously, some of the matches that would be on the pay-per-view are just going to be on TV, which should make for some really good television. Commander is a very dope luchador. I'm glad that Tony Khan is bringing him in here. Tony Khan did not confirm whether or not he signed with the company. But of course, with Action Andretti, Sammy Guevara, AR Fox, Takeshita, I mean, guys, the list of people in this match, it's going to end up being a really dope match. The quality of it's going to be really massive, but it's going to be really interesting to see who Tony Khan puts as the winner here. I would say more than likely in this situation, and it's just my personal opinion, but I think maybe Tony Khan goes with Konosuke Takeshita. He's supposed to get a really big push. We know that they are pairing him potentially with Don Callis. So if I'm AEW, that's my pick. I also want to point out, too, Action Andretti just lost to Sammy Guevara on Rampage, so that's a big question mark for me. I thought that was a questionable decision, but if you're AEW, maybe there's more to the story with Action Andretti. I felt like when he picked up the win against Jericho, there should have been more momentum built up upon that win, and they definitely didn't decide to do that. So that's going to be a flaw on Tony Khan's record. But with that being said, this is a big-time matchup that's normally on the pay-per-view. Now it's being moved to Dynamite, which is fine. I think this is going to be a dope match. I think AR Fox, Commander, I think everybody's going to have a really dope spot. I think everybody's going to show off. It's going to be really fun. It might be a spot fest, but in terms of match quality, it's definitely going to be up there with something exciting. Whether this leads to anything more for Commander joining AEW or not, that's going to be interesting. But of course, AEW has these working relationships that allow things like this to happen. So, of course, that is a benefit with AEW. With that being said, I want to know what you guys think in the comments section down below. I appreciate everybody dropping by and watching these videos. If you guys aren't subscribed, click that subscribe button, because we are growing every single day. And with that being said, I'll see you next time. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.